Hey, I just want to know, have you ever done grocery store math? Where you're standing there with a cart and you're adding things up in your head and you're deciding what goes back and you're doing it just casually, like you're just browsing because you don't want anybody to know what's happening,
For sure. And then you make it look like you changed your mind about the item.
right? You, you put it back like, I don't want that. And when I've done that in the past, I never once told anybody I was doing that. I mean, not while it was happening.
Yeah, well, who does that? Nobody does that. Nobody talks about it. Nobody says it.
Right? Which is wild because I don't know about you, but I've talked about my divorce. I've talked about, my body, being uncomfortable with my belly. I've talked about being laid off from jobs, but I'm totally uncomfortable talking about money. And I don't think I'm alone.
You're not alone. It's still like the last taboo. There's the last thing that people want to talk about or mention.
Yeah, it really is. And it's strange too, because it's the thing that shaping almost every decision we make, like where we live and whether we leave a job that we're not happy in, or whether we go to the doctor when we're not feeling well, or even for regular checkups. And it's
Mhm.
underneath everything. And we've all
Mhm.
just agreed not to mention it.
But we walk around thinking that we, as an I, me, is the only one going through that.
I know, right? And then there's the shame that's attached to it that convinces you that you're the only one who's going through this, or you're the only one that's behind, or who's
Mhm.
got bills sitting on the counter that you can't make yourself open. And you're never the only one. And not once in my entire life have I like confided with somebody and not had that person say, "Oh, yeah, me too."
Right? I,
Mhm.
I, not that I've ever really mentioned it because I've always kept it close to my heart, but every single time, yeah.
So that's what we're doing today. We're talking about money.
And we should probably say the thing,
Oh,
Yvonne.
we should say the thing. We are not
We're not
qualified
qualified.
at all. Let's make that clear. Neither one of us is a financial expert. We're not going to pretend otherwise. We're not giving advice or five-step plans. We're not
Mhm.
going to tell you to stop buying your
Mhm.
coffee. We're
None of
in fact,
that.
we're not here to fix you or anybody.
No.
We're here to put it out in the air so
And
we
there's no
can look at it.
PDF. There's no
Right.
PDF. So that's our whole show today.
There you go. So here's where we're headed. We're going to talk about the brokest we've ever been or can remember being. I'm sure there've been a lot of them. The first thing we bought, maybe that felt like an actual splurge. Um, Maybe what our families believed about money that
Mhm.
we took in and had and are maybe still trying to unlearn. And the one that
Mhm.
scares me, maybe most of all, is what it feels like to look at getting older without enough saved.
That's real talk right there.
Yeah, it's real. And and I think we talked about Kat getting the difference between being broke and being poor. You brought that one up. It's such a
Mhm.
good point because those aren't the same thing. And I think that distinction matters more than people realize.
Well, I think sometimes people use them like they're interchangeable and they're not.
Not, yep, not even close. So we'll talk about that. Oh, and Kat, I have to tell you, I asked my list, the people on my email list to send me their money stories this week, and they showed up. I've got a few stories in front of me on my computer, and I'm gonna read those to you.
What, Yvonne? You're holding out on me? What?
I am. You're gonna get them live, same as everyone else, Kat.
Like I'm just like everybody else. Come on, Yvonne.
No,
I'm one half of Salty
you are
Sisters.
special. You are special. I didn't have time to share them with you. Anyway, they're all so relatable. So we're going to read them a little bit later on. So stick around. And if you're watching live, by the way, feel free to add your stories to the comments. We'll do our best to keep track of comments while we're going. And now the part I skipped. Welcome to Salty Sisters. I'm Yvonne Marchese.
And I'm Cat Corchado.
Yep, we are two salty sisters, two friends, keeping it real through midlife and beyond and having fun along the way. So tell us where you're watching from in the chat if you're joining.
Absolutely.
All right. You want to go first on the brokest you ever were?
Man, how much time? How long is this episode? I think the brokest I've ever been was when I was in the military. So for those of you that don't know, I did 20 years in the military. I was a single parent. And I remember getting my paycheck back when you got a paycheck. After paying everything, getting groceries, all that, I had a $10 bill left. And I would fold it, I would quarter it, and I would put it in my wallet for bread or milk because at this point my son was eating me out of house and home. And even getting groceries, he would eat a full meal and I'd be having cereal. And I would just tell him, he's like, Mom, aren't you going to eat? And I said, I'm fine. I'm just going to have this. Mom's on a diet. Oh boy, was I.
Wow. That's real. And that
Mhm.
kind of thing really sticks with you.
It does. But I also think that, if your parents didn't tell you, my father would always say, well, you got to save money. Great. How do I do that? You know what I mean? So if
Right.
your parents didn't talk about money, the importance of saving, the importance of investing, or whatever that looks like for you, how things happen, I had to learn everything I know about money today up to this point by making mistakes.
Yeah. And even if they did talk, my parents talked about saving money and stuff in general, but I don't think we ever sat down and like talked about, we certainly never talked about investing,
No.
and how to get smart with your money.
Mhm.
Yeah. Still
Well, I think
figured.
also too is that I'm a baby boomer, and my parents assumed that they would get me to 18 or whatever that age is, and then I'd be married off with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Which there's nothing wrong with that, but that wasn't my plan. Just saying.
Yeah.
So, when you're not, I watched my mother ask my father for money, and I swore up and down that I would never ask a man for money. You can ask Peter, my husband today. He'll ask me, "Do you need money?" because he knows that I will not ask it. Even though I know he'll give it to me. I
Mm-hmm.
know he will, but the thought of it makes my stomach's hurting. See, it makes my
Just
stomach
thinking about it,
hurt just
like
thinking
it's
about it.
real, right? Like sometimes,
Yes.
like you can get a little tummy ache from talking about
Hmm.
money. Like the
Yeah.
stress just kind of goes, wow. And the other thing I think, and I don't know if this is true of younger generations as much as it was maybe for boomers and maybe for Gen X. I'm Gen X. Is a lot of women don't know the financial information in their families. Like if their husband took care of the finances and
Hmm.
doled them out some sort of,
Hmm.
what's it called, allowance,
Yes.
right? Spending money, they may not know where the investments are, where the like
Hmm.
so, and then the husband dies, and it's a whole learning
Well,
process
that's what
when you're
happened with my
grieving.
family. With
Mm-hmm.
my mother, my dad took care of everything. My mother had to do nothing. And
Wow.
then my father passed, and I said, "Mom, where's the insurance papers?" I don't know. What about the bank accounts? Everything was, I don't know. Your father handled that. And I thought, oh, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
be there.
Wild. I'm trying to think of the brokest I ever was. Well, we were pretty broke when we had our first kid, and John went to grad school, and we took out student loans for him to go.
Hmm.
And so we had the baby. And so I was working part time from home, so trying to like make up the difference between, we took out enough loans. I mean, it just, and honestly, we're this close to paying off student loan debt from that, and it's been 20
Hmm.
years.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it's
But
crazy.
that was a tight time. um yeah, I mean, I remember too moving to New York, and I did have money I was in my 20s, and I had saved money for the move, but I definitely was on I had the money but no job and no place to live when I moved there. So I knew that that was going to be
Mhm.
like the shrinking pile of money, you
It's
know?
slowly gonna just disappear.
Yes, yes. So what was your first time you spent money on something that really felt like a splurge?
I can't even remember, to be honest with you. I bought my first car, and it was a, wait for it, Chevy Chevette. My brother called it a puddle jumper.
Uh-huh.
It was a stick shift, and I couldn't drive a stick shift,
Ah,
but it was the only car I could afford. So the salesman, took me out back in the parking lot and was showing me how to shift.
wow. Wow.
And I had that car for a long time. I actually gave it to my son to go to college, but it wasn't a, what I consider a splurge. It was, I have to have a car.
Right.
So what am I going to do? And no air conditioning. Oh, it did have air conditioning. You know, the ones where you roll it down and you speed up to 80 miles an hour? That's the air conditioning.
Right. Right. Yep. I think when John and I, when we were living together, when I moved to New York, I literally sold everything I owned before I made the move. And so when I moved, I bought a futon, like a really like
Mhm,
a full-sized futon with a
mhm.
mattress. I got the extra thick version of the futon mattress, so that was a little
Ooh,
bit of a splurge.
ah.
But I remember it well when John and I decided to upgrade to a real bed, a queen-sized, thick pillow top
Mhm.
mattress, and it was like, "Oh, that's a lot of money."
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
we did it, and guess what? That's been 20 something years we're sleeping on the same mattress. And it's so comfortable, and
There you go.
I still get
Hmm.
into isn't that crazy? And
Hmm.
I couldn't imagine that it was gonna be worth the money when we did it, but boy, we slept
Hmm.
better. We were getting to the age where we were like, "We're not sleeping very well on this futon mattress. It's time to do something about that."
Well, don't
Uh,
feel bad, because we had a mattress that when you laid in it, it would sink in the
oh,
center like this. So we both roll. I'm like, okay, maybe we need a new mat. We tried to piecemeal it by putting something on top of it, and we finally just said we have to get a mattress, a real mattress.
yeah, with
Yeah.
that, it's like that's like a day to day existence kind of
Hmm.
thing that it really does feel like a splurge, but I'm just gonna say totally worth it.
Totally worth it. Yeah.
Comfortable shoes too.
Oh.
Comfortable shoes these days. I'm
Hmm.
like, it's worth the splurge.
I will tell you my story that I think I was turning 50. We were in Boston. I remember when Jimmy Choos were really
Uh huh.
popular
Uh
shoes,
huh.
right?
Yeah.
And I walked in and I found the pair I wanted. I walked around the store with this box under my arm for an hour. And the salespeople kept, "Are you okay?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I look at the shoes. I'm like, "Okay." And then I looked at the price tag and I said, $350. That's how much they were.
Yeah.
And I said, "That's my car payment." And I put him back.
Uh
I
huh.
did not buy them. And I told my husband, I go, "I'm buying those shoes." And he goes, "Where are the shoes?" And I go, "If I bought those shoes, I'd be personal training in those shoes every day until I paid them off." So I decided, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I
Everybody like,
didn't.
have you seen the personal trainer in her Jimmy Choos?
Stiletto,
The
I know, right?
hottie. Little flash of red on the
I know.
bottom. Those are some fancy shoes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that is so funny. So, do you feel like Air Force broke or military broke or I don't
Mhm.
know, is different in any way, shape, or form? Like, was your experience or was that tied more to single motherhood, do you think?
No, well, at the time you feel, like you said, isolated. You feel like no one else is going through this.
Mhm.
The one thing about being in the military, as long as you kept your nose clean, you were getting a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So as
Stability.
long as you knew that check was coming in. What I didn't learn until later was that there were many families enlisted. They were on food stamps. Yeah, on food stamps. And I
That
just thought,
seems wrong.
that's ridiculous. It just didn't make sense
Wow.
to me. But you get free, my son and I got free medical, free dental. So we're like, oh, okay. Weighing one against the other. But
Yeah.
there were some tough times.
Yeah. Did you ever want to leave the military and then go, no, I can't because I need that. I I gotta stay because of
Many, 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 many times. But here's the thing. Every time I said, this is it, it's my last 4 years, was when my son was changing schools, going into a different grade. I would get orders. I'm like, okay, after I get back to the States, I'm going to, and it was always that thing. And when I finally said, this is it, I'm ready to go, I only had 5 more years to get my retirement because I can't do math, y'all. Obviously, that's why we're having this conversation. Um, so I said, okay, I might as well, do the. It wasn't the answer I wanted because I called my father because my father was retired Air Force, and they had it was a 15-year retirement. And I called my dad. I go, Dad. I said they're having a 15-year He goes, no. Tire. He said no. Mint. He said no. I go, 15-year retirement. He goes, no, no, and no. I was like, but I'm glad I stayed in. He was right.
yeah. So that extra 5 years, I imagine that's a huge bump in pension and that kind of stuff, or
Well,
is it?
definitely in pension.
Please
Definitely
tell
in,
me it
yeah,
is.
please, definitely
Okay.
in pension. You
Yeah.
don't get all the, people think whatever that paycheck you get, that's what you get when you retire. No, because you get all these allowances, you get housing allowance, you get all of this other stuff that pads your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
But when you retire, all of that goes away,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I get it.
And that's when you really had to figure stuff out, right?
Yeah, and
Was
that,
coming out.
yeah, absolutely. Because you're thinking, for 20 years, you didn't have to find a job. And now you have to find a job when they tell you, like, oh, just wear business casual. I'm like, what is that? I've worn uniforms my whole life. So I don't know if it's different. It is different because you're military, but broke is broke, you
Yeah.
know? Broke is broke.
Broke is broke.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, you know what I want to talk about? Because this is on my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Is the because you talked about it. You never told anybody when any of this stuff, and you still don't, like, right? I still, for the most part, don't say
Mm-hmm.
anything. So
Mm-hmm.
in the meantime, what you're doing is you're faking normal. And I'm pulling that term from a book that was written by Elizabeth White. It was 55 Underemployed and Faking Normal.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a Harvard MBA living on food stamps because she got ageism all played into this. And uh, she was talking about the the pretending she would do, and she still looked, she was still dressing like everything was normal, right? But not going out maybe as much when people wanted to go to dinner, go to happy hour,
You
she
have to
would
keep making
decline.
excuses for not going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you're buying, if she would find herself, I think, buying a birthday gift, but she couldn't really afford to buy the birthday gift, but she get it anyway because that's part
Mm-hmm.
of the faking normal.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Here's faking normal: going to the gas station, using your credit card, and hoping that it accepts points so you can go gas in your car.
right. Yeah.
There is a cost to it. You're right. There is a cost to it. And it's all the worry, all the, you feel like your heart's up here because you're so stressed out.
Hmm.
And it was something that I didn't want my son to see. I didn't want him to, like, saying, oh, we don't have money, we don't have this. Thank goodness my parents would, send him money for his birthday and for Christmas, buy him Christmas gifts and stuff like that. All the designer clothes he wanted at the time. And but it's still something that, you just kind of fake it. And I will say this: in the military, I had a top secret clearance. And at the time, if I went to my supervisor and said, I'm in financial trouble, they could pull your clearance. So that was another, you're like,
Oh,
I'll just
because then,
breathe.
because then, like, you could be compromised, right? If somebody else knew.
Exactly. Yes. That's
Oh,
how they get. Yeah, absolutely.
wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So it's
That is.
just really, to my son, everything was normal, but that's what I wanted him to think.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't have money for something, I'd say, we don't have. I will tell you this. Remember Michael Jackson's red jacket in Thriller?
Thriller. Yeah.
He wanted that jacket so bad. If I tell you, I searched the entire wherever I was. I must have done 150-mile radius looking for this jacket. I finally found the jacket, and it was $200, and I said no.
Yeah.
You know,
Because
no.
back then, that was a lot of
It was a lot of
money.
money.
That was a
Yes.
lot of
Although
money,
now that I think about it, if I bought the jacket and kept it, I probably kept it.
right?
Oh well, never mind.
All right. Okay. So I'm too excited to not read you some of these mailbag
Okay.
things that people sent in. And everybody's going to stay anonymous with this. The first one, she said, this one hit home back in my early divorced years, because divorce, by the way, that's a big
Mhm. Huge.
thing that can throw people into a tailspin. She said, great topic. I see people every day with tons of money that have never had a hiccup and don't get it. You can be rolling along doing fine, and suddenly you're working a secret second job. Me,
Mhm.
she's got in parentheses, and wondering how you'll make it to the next paycheck. After
Mhm.
15 years, I finally feel like I'm breathing okay, but I still live a frugal life. The divide of
Mhm.
have and have nots continues to
Mhm.
grow, sadly.
And it's true. If you've ever had a time in your life when you had to have PB&J sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly, because you had nothing else, you know what that feels like. But if you've never had, I mean, I talked to someone the one day and I said, "Oh, you remember PB&J?" And they go, "What?" I go, peanut butter and jelly." And like, I've never had a peanut. I'm
Wow.
like, okay.
Wow.
But she's right. If you've never had to struggle, if you've never had to do any of that, then you don't know what this is about.
And here's the thing, I'm just going to admit right now, I have never really, really been food insecure.
Mhm.
That is one thing where we've always had enough to eat, and we, I've never been like, okay, all I can have is peanut butter and jelly or cereal.
It's real.
It's that is like scary, scary. But I've
Mhm.
been to the point of being very scared. It's
Mhm.
all just like what's your level of tolerance, I
Yeah.
guess.
And I think that that's also generational because my mother grew up during World War II when there was no meat, there was no sugar, there was no there was nothing.
Hmm.
And my mother would go to the commissary, which is like the supermarket that was on base.
Right, because you grew up you were a military
I was a
brat. We didn't
military
mention that.
brat,
Yeah.
and she would buy $400 or $500 worth of groceries. Like I could literally gather 25 people I don't even know and take them to my mom's house. She would have enough food to feed everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I realized that when you grow up with nothing, when you grow up wanting and you can't get it, that when you finally get to get it, you just keep getting it. You just keep
Yeah.
moving. Yeah,
Yeah, the stuff stays with you. Okay,
it
so
does.
here's another one. She
Hmm.
says 40 this she's talking about the brokest she ever was, I guess. $43 in my checking account, more or less, and I had to return a pair of jeans to Target because my paycheck was delayed. And that was at a time when I was a single mom working in a good job.
Hmm. For sure. Have you ever looked at your checking account and there was a minus before the sign?
Yes.
Like overdrawn?
I'm just going to say
Hello.
this. I'm just going to say this that actually happened recently
Hmm.
because of heating oil costs.
Yeah.
really coming to bite us in the butt this year. We're on like a level budget payment plan, and we've been on this with the same company for heating oil for at least a decade, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. And
Mm-hmm.
we've been on this budget plan, have never had to pay above what the budget plan was at the end of the year. This
Mm-hmm.
year, it was close to $800 that got sucked out of my checking account. And
Oh.
I I didn't see the email. They did send
Mm-hmm.
emails. They did say you're going to have,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't open those emails because I just thought they were
Yeah. Oh,
the
thank you for
regular,
your payment. Blah blah blah.
right? And I
Mm-hmm.
missed it and didn't have the money in the account and didn't know it. And then that sent me into a whole,
Mm-hmm.
like, overdraft fees to the tune of another $120. I was like, oh,
It snowballs, right?
yeah, yeah. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh boy, good
Yeah.
times. So that's
It's
embarrassing.
it is, and I'm not ashamed to say I've been there because I learned a very valuable lesson, and it my mindset with money's different now
Yeah.
than it was. I mean, it should be, Lord. If I haven't learned my lesson now, it's too
I'm
late.
honestly, I'm still, no, no, never do, don't say that. I'm still working on it, Kat. I'm still working on it. I am. I'm really working hard to get out of, the mindset that there's never enough money. And Donna's here. Hey,
Hi,
Donna.
Donna.
Great to have you here. I'm
Always.
reading some mailbag responses that people sent in, Donna. Here's a good one. I know we know Donna, and I know she's going to relate
Mhm.
to this. The She says the poorest I was when I was in Asheville, North Carolina, as a single mom. My kids were 4 and 5. I had decided I needed to go back to school and get my degree. We rented an older house in town. I scraped together some financial aid for school, got a part time job, put the kids in Head Start, and started
Mhm.
school. And then the winter came. And here you go. Being an older house, it was not well insulated. I got a heating bill of over $200, but this was in
Mhm.
1980. So that's the
Mhm.
equivalent of what just happened to me. There was
Mhm.
no way I had an extra 200 sitting around. So I called the gas company and asked if I could make payments. They
Mhm.
said no. I explained I had two small children living in the house. I couldn't have the
Mhm.
heat turned off. Please let me make payments. The answer was no.
Mhm.
The
Oh man.
solution they offered was to go to the welfare office with my divorce papers and apply for heating assistance. I felt so humiliated having to do that, but what choice did I have? I had to
Mhm.
keep the heat on. After that experience, I got a roommate so that I wouldn't have to do this again to cover the next month's heating bill.
Mhm.
I felt I had tried to do the right thing by offering to make payments. It was upsetting that the gas company would not work with me.
Absolutely. I mean, that's real life right there.
That is real life
It's
right
real
there.
life. It's so in, but it's so in your face. You know, it's not like you're watching a TV. It's like you have this 80-inch screen and the screen's like right
Yeah,
here.
it's like
You
right
know,
here,
it's like right
surround, wrapping around,
I'm wrapping around.
maybe pulling you under like
I
quicksand.
know.
Remember when quicksand was a thing? Feels like
Yeah.
quicksand.
But I just
Um, yeah,
that's real life. Those are
yeah.
real stories.
And then she and I continued like a little email back and forth and talked
Hmm.
about, the shame that goes with not being able then to pay for your kids' college and knowing that they're going to have to take on a lot of student loan debt,
Hmm.
but being advised that it's better that
Hmm.
because they've got longer to pay it off, and that otherwise that you've got to make a choice then between not being ready to retire versus putting your kids through school. That's a real concern for people. And
Hmm.
there's so much shame attached to all this stuff because you feel like I
Hmm.
should be doing this for my kids. You know, I
Yeah,
should. I should.
I get that part. You know, it was for me. It was more like I wanted to. I want, like I gave him all the, I got all the assistance, gave him all the stuff, so he didn't have to worry about anything. You know, but in the end, you really wanted to be able to say, "Here, take this check and pay whomever." But it really wasn't in the cards, and I'm not ashamed to say that very very early, and we're talking probably about 50 years ago. Oh God, how old am I? Anyway, Wait, what? I had to file for bankruptcy,
Mm,
and
hmm.
there was a lot of shame in that. But looking back, I realized that I didn't know anything about money. I didn't know how to do whatever it is I needed to do because I wasn't doing it. It's like, oh, get a credit card, max that out, get another credit card, max that out, get it, and it's this repetitive thing. And they're like, want a credit card? Here you go. You're
Yeah.
military? Yeah, here's five, take these. And, it
And
was it,
especially when you're young, you don't know that
you
that's a
don't
trap.
know. Yeah. And so I had to learn the hard way. I did, but I'm still learning. I feel like I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But so, yeah.
Okay, so I want to go to the scary space. This is the
Hmm.
one that scares me, I
Okay.
think, the most, which is the getting old without enough money to live. And I literally just saw a post before we went live today, and it really hit home for me. There's a woman that I follow on Instagram, Carol Jones, and her husband has gone into early dementia. He's been diagnosed with early dementia. And man, bless her, she is doing everything that she can as somebody who's a content creator on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
to make money, to try to do everything that she's going to need to do, because now the financial burden is on her to make
Yes.
sure that they can keep going. And it's
Mm-hmm.
early onset dementia. That is just so
Oh,
frightening.
yeah, that blows my mind.
And
That's
she,
just,
yeah, she talks about, she says, I'm going to say out loud what numberless families are living through in silence. To give my husband the years of care he's going to need with early onset dementia, will most likely have to leave the country.
mm,
She talks about how memory care and the quality memory care in the
quality.
U.S.
Yes.
runs 10,000 to 15,000 a month, which is true. I've
Oh
I had to
my
look at we
gosh.
looked into that when my dad had it. And with a disease like his, the cost does not hold steady. It climbs as he needs more and more services.
Yes.
And then she talks about how for instance, Mexico, the same level of care runs about $1,000 to $2,500 a month.
That's a
Can you
huge
believe that change? And she
gap.
says, and I haven't looked into any of this, but
Mhm.
she says that's often with well-trained nurses on staff, a doctor on call, and better staff to resident ratios than a lot of American facilities.
Mhm.
And also the fee is fixed, so it doesn't balloon as his needs grow. So she's actually, and then she says, so people ask, well, what about Medicaid and state
Mhm.
facilities? And this is the trap that my parents got caught in, is middle class families make too much
Mhm.
to qualify for Medicaid and
Yes.
nowhere near enough to
To
pay for.
afford, yes.
Right. So you get caught in this middle class trap.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, what are we talking about here? Having to go out of the United States just to be able to survive. And I'm just gonna, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but that
Mhm.
scares the poopity doopities out of me,
Well,
right?
it's
I just
there's
made
no
up that
help
word,
for
poopity
you. Poopity
doopities.
doopity. What was it? Poopity doopity.
Poopity doopities. I had to lighten it up, Cat. I don't know. I don't know. There you go. Yikes.
No, but I get it. I'm doing everything I possibly can because I'm older than my husband. I'm just going to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to keep myself, you know, somewhat healthy, not somewhat healthy, so that he doesn't have to take care of me, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm too stubborn to go that way anyway, so I'm just saying.
I know you and
I'm
I
too
are of like
salty.
minds here in that I try to stay healthy also. And
Mhm.
I consider that to be part of my retirement plan.
Mhm.
That it's not fine. It's not like money in the bank, but it is
Mhm.
money in the bank. Like if I
Mhm.
can make choices with my diet and
Mhm.
keeping moving and
And
staying
not
as
having to go to the doctor and all that. Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
hopefully, I mean, nobody's
Mhm.
got control over this completely,
Mhm.
but hopefully that will mean fewer doctor bills in as I do age. So
Donna liked your poopity doopity.
we're gonna we're gonna keep
Yep,
that
that's a
one.
real word, folks. Just saying.
That is official. I'm like Shakespeare. I'm just making up words over here. Yeah, great. Um, so here's I want to go back to Elizabeth White's book because
Hmm.
she did, to give a little bit of hope. She talked about like some possible solutions. And when I read the book, I was like, okay, first of all, fear is not going to help me solve any problems.
Mm-mm.
Being afraid is probably going to make me not be able to make good choices and creative choices. But she does
Absolutely.
talk about like the some of the things she offered forward in her book is overcoming the denial, um,
Hmm.
accepting your new reality. If there's things happening, cancel the memberships, cancel subscriptions, get
Hmm.
rid of the luxuries, and get rid of the discretionary spending. And there we go. We're down to getting rid of your coffees and your lattes, right? I said I
Hmm.
wasn't going to do that, but I guess I just did. She talks though about shared living and housing. And I
Hmm.
think so many people want to be, I think Americans especially, we want to be independent.
Hmm.
We've all got this bootstrapping independent thing.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? When I think about getting older and maybe outliving my husband, which, he's always like, you're killing me off already. But I'm like, I just got to look at it. The statistics show
Yes.
that I'm
Hmm.
likely to be around longer than
Hmm.
you. So what am I
Hmm.
going to do? And uh, sometimes I think, well, maybe the Golden Girls option is.
Is a thing. I mean, a lot of people are being very creative. Like
Mhm.
they've got I won't say generations, but they'll have, families, two or three, and they all pitch in, to help with the food and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I'm even one of the things that people talk about all the time is like, oh, I have a house, I own a house. I could care less about a house. I've had three. I don't like it. I'm just putting it out there. I don't like it. I don't want it. We're in an apartment right now. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But you have to decide what's going to work for you. Maybe it's two or three friends, three or four friends, and you live in someone's house, one of your friends, and you pitch in. Maybe that's the Golden Girls thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
I've seen some really creative versions of that. There's one woman, I think, down in Southwest Texas or something,
Hmm.
who bought some land and
Hmm.
turned it into a tiny home community for women.
Hmm.
And
I like that.
isn't that cool? I'm like, oh,
Yes.
because and that I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I could do that because then you're in your own
Hmm.
space,
Hmm.
but they share like some of the responsibilities of being in
Hmm.
that community together and everything else, and they support each other.
Hmm. I
And I
like
think
that.
too that takes some of the shame out of it because then you're with people in a
Hmm.
similar who are probably like-minded, who are willing to go live in a tiny home and
Hmm.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, maybe it's like, how creative can you
Hmm.
get? What are you willing to do?
Yeah. Well, I
You know?
think also all of this money going to, and I get it. There's staff, there's this, there's that, there's medical, blah, blah, blah. But again, that much money per month to take, we looked at assisted living for my mom,
Mhm.
and they were like, oh, meals are included. I was like, oh, 3 meals a day. She goes, oh, no, one. You get 1 meal. You had to buy two more. So they
Wow.
start piecemealing, so
Mhm.
it's like, oh, it's $1,200 a month. Okay. Then you start adding on. Oh, you want someone to clean? Oh, you want some. Oh, now it's a lot more. It's not 1,200. Now it's more like 3 or 400, or not 3 or 400, 3 or 4,000.
Yeah. Additional, like on
Yeah,
top
I
of.
missed a zero. See, math, you guys, come on. You know?
I was told there would be no math.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you told me that.
I know, right?
Oh man.
Oh my goodness. I guess I think one of the things that I really liked about her book was the idea of having what she called resilience circles
Mhm.
and having like your group of peers who are facing similar situations so that it doesn't have to all be carried in shame. And I think that's mostly why we wanted to talk about this today, because when you
Mhm.
can talk about it, you can what do they say? Something about like you put it out in the daylight and everything, it like lightens it. It
Yeah.
takes away the stink. I don't know. I'm coming up. I don't know what's coming out of my mouth today, Cat. Oh, good Lord.
We better cut it short. Just saying.
We might
We
need
don't know
to.
what next is. But I think you're right. I mean, it's just real life, people. It's real things happen to real people. Can I be totally like transparent?
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't, well, you probably don't know me, but we got into a situation with our condo where they assessed $165,000. Not total. Me and my husband had to pay that. And they said, well, if you can't pay it, we're going to put a lien and then we're going to go into foreclosure and blah, blah, blah. Right. So right now I'm paying the mortgage, I'm paying the HOA payment, I'm paying for rent. Now, the good news is I already set my mind up that this was going to happen and I prepared for that as much as I could.
Mm-hmm.
The shame part is you hear lien or you hear foreclosure. What's wrong with you? You can't pay your rent. What's going on? Can't pay your mortgage? You suck. But
It's
that's
so crazy. But who
mhm,
has $160,000 sitting around to just be like, okay, oh, let me
mhm.
hand that over to you?
Here's the reality. People they took it out of their retirement funds,
And
right?
that's not good.
That's not good either.
That's what we're like.
Hmm.
The whole thing seems crazy
Yeah.
and like it should be
Hmm.
illegal to me, but
Hmm.
the HOA thing is the thing that
Hmm.
you're trapped in with that situation, right?
But there's no age where you're like, okay, you're at a certain age, no more money problems for you. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
So at 69, my husband and I are dealing with this.
Yeah.
Sometimes better than others. Some days are better than others.
Yeah.
But it's truth. It's real life.
Yeah. I have to think, every time that I have worried about money
Hmm.
and how things were going to turn out, it really, I don't know, I feel like I've got guardian angels or something. Did
Hmm.
things turn out the way I hoped they would or wanted to? No.
Hmm.
But in the end, I've always been okay, and I sometimes
Hmm.
I'm just like, maybe it's just magical thinking, but
No, but I think you're right though, Yvonne. I think you have to think that no matter what, and I've had to say this throughout this entire year because that's how long we've been dealing with this.
mhm.
Is that no matter what happens, lien, foreclosure, whatever, me and my husband are together. We're going through this together and we're going to be okay.
And how
That's what I had to
beautiful,
keep.
like, that
Hmm.
so you're not being alone in it is huge,
Hmm. It's
like,
huge.
I feel very, very fortunate to be with
Hmm.
John, and that
Yeah.
whatever we face it together, and I feel
Hmm.
terrible for anybody who doesn't have that,
Yeah. Because
and
there's a loneliness there that you can't even,
right,
at
and
least I can
that's
speak
where
about
I
this
think
with Peter, but if you're alone, who do you talk to? You got
yeah,
to find somebody, get it out. Because
yeah,
sometimes when you hear the words, you're like, oh, well, maybe, you put it out there, like you said, into the daylight, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, maybe I could do this. There's something
mhm,
about putting it out there,
mhm,
even if you have to talk to your computer and do it. But you know what I'm saying? Is
yeah,
getting it out, getting the words out, because then sometimes solutions show up
yes, yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Hmm.
All hope is not lost.
Although it may seem like it.
It may
It
seem
may
like
seem
it.
like
It
it.
may seem
Yeah.
like it. What do they say?
Yeah.
Darkest before the dawn? Is that the thing?
Yeah.
It's always darkest before the dawn.
And that's so
Yeah.
true, but I never applied it to money or lack thereof.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
and two, this is one thing I know about really all of us. Anybody who's
Hmm.
watching right now, I certainly know this about myself. I know this about you, Kat. I know this about Donna watching that we have 100% back, words. I'm having trouble with words today. I'm making stuff
Oh,
up.
you
I can't
you've
get the
got your
words I want.
words. They're
I
just
got
not
my
the
words.
right words.
100% survival rate. That's what I'm
Yes.
trying to
Yeah.
say. And
Hmm.
if there's one thing I do know about myself, I know I'm
Hmm.
resilient.
Yes.
And in the times that things have been rough, I know that
Hmm.
I have, with help or through my own pulling up my bootstraps in many
Hmm.
cases, is like, okay, somehow,
Hmm.
some way I made it through, and whatever's coming down the pike,
Hmm.
that's just got to be the way I
Hmm.
believe, in
Yeah.
order you know to not panic,
Hmm.
because panic ain't gonna help.
No, worrying isn't going to help.
No.
Because if I thought it'd help, I'd be worried all the time. But it doesn't work, folks. I've tried it. It does not work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go, can we talk about broke versus poor?
Yes, we didn't get into it. Oh my goodness, how
Mm-hmm.
do we skip over that? Yes.
Don't know. So if you've ever talked to someone and they're like, "Oh, I'm broke," I don't think I've heard anybody say, "Oh, I'm just poor." There's a difference. Broke is a temporary, I don't have money this week, but I'll have money next week.
Hmm.
Poor is a mentality. So if you've ever known anybody, and I'm going to use a story everyone's heard, someone you know, or maybe someone you don't know, wins massive amounts of money in the lottery. And 5 years later, they're broke. That's a poor mentality.
Hmm.
They weren't broke, far from it. But the poor mentality is, oh, let me buy that, let me buy that, buying stuff that you don't need. That's a mentality. And I have to be upfront. I had that poor mentality a long time ago. Now, not so much. I'm like, okay, I don't have it this week, but I have it next week. But when you start to shift from, oh, I'm just poor to, I'm just temporarily broke, that's okay. That's going to change.
It feels different just
It
hearing you
feels
say it,
different.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So I
think.
just think that, I think if we change our mindset, and I have to, let me say this real quick. Everyone, you guys know, and everybody should know, and if you don't, you should. I started my fitness career in the military because I needed a part-time job. That's where my fitness career started. And $5 a class, I'll never forget it. $5. That's what I got, but it was extra money.
Right.
And being a single parent, I couldn't have a part-time job that had part-time hours because that wasn't going to work. But I could teach a class, go home, meet my son at home, and be done. And I liked that. I liked it so much. I'm doing it as a career, y'all.
There
It's
you
just
go.
saying. But
Right.
I think, you get very creative. What are the things that you can do? Like I've written stuff down. I could do this, I could do this. Now, which ones do I want to do?
Hmm.
So for instance, I tried to work at, I think I can say it, Kmart one time.
Hmm.
And I walked into Kmart, they hired me, but I walked in and we were going through the orientation and I said, I can't do this. And during orientation, I walked out. Was that the right thing to do? Probably not, but I knew that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
But when you get desperate, you start thinking of these things. And then you get into them, and you're like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't, but maybe something else will.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you can get creative, start a side hustle. That's
Mm-hmm.
basically what you did. You started
Mm-hmm.
a side hustle that has turned into a career.
Yes.
Photography was that for me in the beginning as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of our future guests is going to be Janine Vanderberg, and she's got a podcast called Build Your Own Boat. And I think this needs to be something that older women hear,
Mm-hmm.
that there is ageism out in the world. And I think probably by the time I was about 40 is when I started feeling like, oh, I might be unemployable. And that was mostly because I had a crazy resume and
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of deep industry experience,
Mm-hmm.
and Could I get a job doing customer service back then? Yeah, those jobs might have been outsourced to AI at this point. I don't even
Right.
know. But to find a job as an older person, I know can take a lot of time. You
Mhm.
know, it's difficult. So what can you do
Mhm.
to start a side hustle? To, there's always I just think there's always a solution. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do too. I think that, figuring out what are you good at? If someone was like, you are so good at that. Now,
Mhm.
maybe you're doing it for enjoyment and you don't want the side hustle part of it.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Fair.
But
Mhm.
if you do something you love as your side hustle.
Yeah. All right. All right. All
I'm
right. All
tired
right.
now. That's exhausting talking about money or lack thereof.
I kind of, it really is, isn't it?
Like, I need a
It does,
nap.
it makes everything kind of clinch up,
Yeah, I'm
doesn't
like,
it?
ugh.
Ew.
What was that word you used? It made me feel, what
Poopy
was it?
doopy.
Poopity doopity or poopy
Poopity
poop.
doopity.
That's how it
Terrible.
feels.
Ah. Well, we will be back next week. Sally Duplantier is going to be, I hope I just said her name right, is going to be our guest. She's
Mhm.
she's a gerontologist and got her gerontology degree, her PhD. She's I think in her 70s. Anyway, we'll tell you
Mhm.
more about her next week. She is awesome. Let's just
Yeah.
say she's awesome
She's
and come
awesome.
awesome and come back and be with us with her next week. And yeah,
So
that's
until then,
Friday.
my friends,
Yeah.
stay salty.
Stay salty. Bye.